Hello and welcome back to another episode of Industry Insights. I am Varin Senthil, and today we have Archana Muralai with us. So, could you give us a description about your job?
Sounds great, Varin. So I'm right now in Bay Area, working in WhatsApp as a product manager. I'm basically looking into the monetization aspect, which is more about how do we get revenue using the business, using the products to serve the population that WhatsApp currently serves.
Okay. So, would you say your job focused more on IT or sales?
Um, it's more product and features, more technology, less about sales, but I do partner closely with sales team.
Okay. So, my first question is, um, what do you enjoy about your job currently?
The ambiguity, because the problem that you are sort of tasked with is something that's very new space, new domain, and something that, especially, the ambiguity coupled with the fact that WhatsApp is currently serves about one third of population or one half of the world's population, which means that the magnitude of problem is much larger. So you have to be very, very careful about, what solution sort of strikes the right chord without hurting the sentiments that people are, bought into and the reason why they use WhatsApp for.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you for explaining that. So, my next question is, did you dream about this profession when you were in like school, like high school or something?
That's an interesting question. When I was in high school, we didn't even have WhatsApp as a product. So the only way you could get in touch with your parents or with your friends were through, the old Nokia phones, through an SMS, which was expensive way to sort of communicate. Eventually, gradually, as the technology involved, the infrastructure involved, you had this capability of WhatsApp. Now every family is in WhatsApp. Now the communication has become so seamless. So all I needed to do in high school was be part of the next revolution. That's all I knew. I don't know which revolution, what was that going to be.
So, in high school, what did you plan on focusing on? Like, were you focusing on like science, politicals, like what area?
Um, Interesting. So in high school, my interests varied a lot, but predominantly everything was in science domain. At some point, I wanted to be an astronaut, a space, enthusiast. From space, I ventured into computers. From computers, I ventured into. I kept oscillating between different areas, but all of them in science domain. So I knew something I needed to do in science, but I don't know what exactly in science. So it was more much. It was the entire progression of my career is based on trial and error. You do something, you like it, you continue progressing. Otherwise, you change and you pivot and go to next, a set of roles.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. I have another question regarding your journey, and that is, in fact, like, what was your journey in order to get to where you are right now? Like, do you have any previous jobs? Like, what do you think college? All of that.
Yeah. So after college, I had an unusual educational background. I did pure science, not engineering, not computers, nothing related to that. So I just did pure science. From pure science, there was an opportunity in college, like, hey, IBM is visiting your campus. If you want to participate, IBM runs this program about, they'll help you do your masters, but at the same time, we would want to leverage people with certain background just to, expand, possibilities and opportunities. So I was like, yay, this is interesting. Let me just get a foot in the door. So I started my journey with IBM. And as part of IBM, I did masters as well as, juggled with a couple of roles, couple of, interesting projects. And then project over project, I started gaining insight into what IT industry is. From IBM, I moved to another technology company where I spent more time with more, clients, try to understand different domains and different problems that each one solves. From there, I moved to Bay Area. In the Bay Area, I started my first role as a fintech company. So I progressed from a core, even in within these technology companies, each client that I worked was part of different domains. So you have automotive sector, you have healthcare, and now I was a part of fintech. That's how slowly gravitated. But the story every time, even though there was a backline story, the kind of problems, the kind of domain you tackle eventually evolved over a period of time.
Okay. I'm glad you are able to get where you are right now, where you're able to enjoy your job.
Yeah.
I do have another question. What's in a lesson or like what's a piece of advice that you'd give to someone else that's starting off like in the same career as you?
Um, there's no such thing as a perfect job. There's no such thing as a perfect role. There's no such thing as a perfect team. So the only thing is you try, and if you like it, great. But you have to make yourself heard. You have to make yourself seen, which means that if you like something, and if you want to progress, go and ask your folks around you to help you, mentor you, and get some opportunities to unlock the future path. No one sits here and it's like, hey, I want to focus in your own growth. You're responsible for your own growth.
Okay, that's a great piece of advice. So thank you for sharing that with us. Do you think it matter of being an introvert or extrovert in order to be somewhere in the same career as you?
I'm a big time introvert. I mean, extrovert with my friends, introvert especially. I've dealt with imposter syndrome. I've dealt with any sorts of, especially when you're in a new environment where you have new set of folks, and coming from, a different culture, different country, setting up yourself for success was a huge sort of task for myself. So for me, it was more about leaning in. I know I'm uncomfortable. Let me put myself in an uncomfortable situation and see how far I move. And there are moments and ups and downs. I feel sometimes bad, wake up in the night, is like, what did I do wrong today? There have been such moments also. I mean, again, I'm not a perfect human. I'm subjected to all the environmental situations that happens around us. But it's more about picking yourself again up and saying, let me try something different today. Let me see how far that takes me. So it's more, it goes back to, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself the luxury. Not everybody around yourself is going through the same kind of situation. When I get into any job, the biggest thing that I face here is, oh my God, this is overwhelming for me. But when I talk to my colleagues, they're like, oh, they're equally overwhelmed. So how do we collectively help each other to move to the next, pace? So I think talking really helps. Making your friends anywhere, just talking out loud really helps. And sometimes, if it's okay to fall down, you'll pick up yourself. That's not the end of the world. In grand scheme of things, a small hiccup really doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you for that. Another piece of great advice. And also for answering my question. I know it was a little bit weird to answer. But you did mention that you were an immigrant. So how would you describe being an immigrant has affected your life here and like your career path?
Yeah. So far as an immigrant, even despite having a great, career background, professional, work background while growing up in India, but when I came here, the biggest impediment was having a visa itself, getting a work sponsorship. So it took me about a year for someone to trust me and also, break the barrier of having visa constraints. Once the visa constraints were sort of removed, the next question here is more about having someone take a chance on you because you come from a different background, you come from a different work experience, and despite work experience, sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not relevant, but it's matter of you go through multiple rejections. I got here not because everything I cracked worked. It's more about after 10 rejections comes one positive acceptance. That rejections sort of harden you in a way that you know how to sort of position yourself. What is the narrative that you need to stitch for yourself in order to get to the next path. So as an immigrant, apart from visa constraints, the first one was having someone accept you. But then every rejection taught me something of how I need to refine myself to get to a point of acceptance.
Okay. So how important would you say like accepting yourself would be? Like, do you think um like you should accept yourself? How long do you think it should take? Like, is this something that's gonna be like a lifelong journey like that, or is it something that's gonna be like a lot more short, like maybe like 1 to 5 years?
Um, in what sense? Like accepting yourself?
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's a lifelong journey. As an individual, we evolve. Every time a situation, a circumstance we put into teaches us something, so we evolve to become a better human. But again, I would say I still haven't stopped learning, despite I having years of experience. I every day when I go to work, I learn something new. Every day, time my 4 year old teaches me something that I'm not I'm not aware of. So it's the learning is constantly going. The only thing is having an open mindset is much more helpful, and being humble and being resilient to all the changes is really important.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. So another question I have is, over your whole career, what was like your favorite aspects of each job you've had?
Um, Great question. In my first job, I think folks took a chance on me and they gave me, they gave me assignments, they gave me projects that helped me sort of build insights, build a career out of it was really important. In the second job, it was more about mentorship, where people said, you've reached a point where you have to actually, you've reached the um, side, you've reached the confinement of this particular job, you have to now fly. And that kind of power, where people thought that you have reached the surface, now you have to sort of go higher and go fly outside to actually find new avenues, new greener pastures, was really important. So first is giving me opportunities, second was the people around me, the third time it's more about the scale of issues I'm dealing with. So every problem, every job had something unique to offer. There were ups and downs, but every career, every job put me, gave me, added a character to my overall personality, I would say.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're able to expand your knowledge and you're also very curious. But it also does follow into my second question or like my next question. Um, would you say that you've always been interested in like solving problems like this?
Uh, I don't know. I won't say I was always curious and solving problems, but for me it was like solving problems means math. But then, as I was put into different, circumstances and different situations, I learned that it's no longer about the math problem. The problem could be different type of problems. So while in my first job I was still an application developer, still coding, I was doing a different set of problems. But as I was put in front of clients, I understood there were business problems to solve for. And those business problems manifest in different forms. It could manifest in terms of shortage of revenue. It could manifest in terms of optimization, automation. There are different kind of business problems. And that's when I found interest and passion of here, like I need to understand how business works. And every business has a different set of challenges and problems. While in Genesis, you will have in grand scheme of things, you can tie them to a single theme. But the way they're structured, the way they're organized, the way which industry do they serve, poses a different set of challenges. So that's how my problem solving capability started from basic math to now solving a larger scale business problems.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that incline in your problem solving skills has increased. And now I'm on like my second last question. So would you do it any differently? Like, is there any part of your like past so far that you would have changed?
Uh, I don't think so. Had I mean, the only thing I keep reminding myself is the maturity I have right now. I wish I had someone had educated me, or someone had given me that word of wisdom when I was young, to not repeat the mistakes. But I think sometimes those mistakes are necessary for you to actually grow, in the way that I've grown over the period of years. So I wouldn't change anything about my past, but yes, having what you're doing for the society in general, just the word of wisdom, I wish someone had a part of that word of wisdom, and just making sure that I had access to those words of wisdom at that moment in time when I'm actually making those choices.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you are happy with how you are and where you are right now. And now that follows into my last question, which is what's one question you wish I asked you and how would you have answered?
Um, Maybe one question I would is like you challenging me in terms of like what's the biggest challenge in your career that you must have faced, and what sort of how did you overcome that challenge, and um, yeah, that would be one question that I would probably stress test a person on.
Okay. So would it be fine if you could answer that question?
Yes. So I think the one challenge, I mean, the challenge that I've seen over the years here is, um, most of the time, solving a problem is not the difficult, it's not the hard problem. It's just getting yourself heard in a larger ecosystem is more important at times, because everyone here knows how to solve problem. Everyone here is pretty much the colleagues around you, people around you have best of brains who put together in best of environment to collectively solve a problem. But getting yourself sort of scaling that problem and getting yourself heard is the biggest challenge I faced in my career. Is more about how do I advocate for my team, for myself in a global forum, in a forum of 1,000 people. That's been always my challenge. And if I could probably say, how would I navigate? I'm still learning. There's no perfect solution. I every time, have a bunch of tricks. I try those tricks out. If something doesn't work, I try to optimize. There's a constant learning. I'm not born senator here or born or stage. I still have stage fright, so I'm just trying to understand, like, what are the tricks I could say to make sure I'm heard, I'm seen in a global platform.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that like last question I asked, because I know it was a little bit weird. Well, thank you for that. And I think you've answered all my questions because you explained it very good on like what you do, how you got here, all my other questions. So I'd like to thank you for being here today.
No worries.
And thank you for all your insights.
No worries. Thank you, Varin.
Have a great day.
Best
Bye.
of luck. You too. Best of luck.